Hello, friend, and welcome to episode number 2, season 2 of the VIP Collective. My name is Corinne McDonald, and today we are sitting with Megan Wappel, owner and operator of Megan Wappel Designs, an event design and production firm. Now, Megan has an extensive background in design, and today we discuss with her her passion for building businesses as well as the functionality of event design. It's an amazing episode, lots of takeaways, so buckle up and let's go, because this is my conversation with Megan Wappel. Y'all ready for this?
I'll probably black out.
Hi. Welcome.
Thanks.
Are you
Thanks for
excited?
having me. I'm excited.
Have you been on a podcast before?
No.
Oh,
I've heard my voice is very soothing.
okay.
People tell me.
Okay. So if you're driving,
You're welcome, everybody.
let's
Turn up the volume.
Yeah, turn it up and enjoy. Well, it's nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
For everyone who's listening and watching, as I like to say, because we are both. We are with Megan Wappel of Megan Wappel Designs. Now, we do need to make a correction on this because, as I was instructed earlier, so you were married last June.
Yeah.
And your name has since changed. So,
Yes.
what are we going by now, Megan?
So my name is Megan Boache.
Boache.
Yes. Proudly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it Megan Wappel Designs? Are
No,
you changing it?
No. My company is
Okay.
still Megan Wappel Designs. I won't be messing with that. But
Okay.
my name on documents in life now is a family. We are Megan.
Mrs. Boache.
Mrs. Boache.
I like that. What's that background?
Kwesi's African. He's from Ghana.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ghana.
Yeah.
Boache.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So the KYE isn't how we would normally say it. It's pronounced Che.
Okay.
KYE.
So spell it. Spell the last name.
Boakye.
B-O-A.
So lots of people would be like Boyke,
Oh.
but it's not. It's Boache.
That is tricky.
Yeah. On all my thank you cards, I wrote it out for people so that they could remember how to say
You have to
it.
put the little brackets underneath
I did.
the pronunciation.
My mom made me.
Yeah. So my first memory of you, and we met many, many, many moons
Oh,
ago.
man.
Yes,
Okay.
which you probably will not remember. But it was one of the Wedlock shows, the wedding shows.
Oh yeah, that
Um,
was like right at the beginning of my
at the beginning of your
stuff.
business.
like stationery.
Yeah.
I did stationery and
Yeah.
graphics. Yeah.
So you were at one of the shows at the Fairmont. And I was working with Wedlocks at the time because
Okay.
my background was with
Oh,
them
okay.
and with Cloud9 Creative. And so that's kind of when my awareness of you happened at that show. And so I've been following you since and seeing all the stuff you're doing. And I know you're doing event design
Yes.
and still some graphics.
Yeah, so we're kind of like you could kind of produce your event in-house through us with doing everything from graphics all the way through implementation of planning and designing the event.
Okay.
To keep consistency. We don't require our clients to get graphics from us. We've worked with graphic designers. We even work with planners when we do design. But it is an offering that we have in-house. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's how we started, was graphics. Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit before we get into the story. And what's the story? How did you end up in Toronto? Because I know you're not an Ontario native.
No.
And fill us in.
Jeez,
Who are you?
I have to make
Miss
this.
Boache? Who that girl?
All right. I am from Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatchewan. I went to school. Okay, so my whole life prior to like anyone who's watching this that knows me thinks that I just design. I was a basketball player, so I played basketball. Sports was like
What?
my life. Yes.
Really?
Yes. So
How tall are you?
which I love. I'm like 5'7" almost.
Cool.
Yeah. I was a point guard.
Okay.
But that was my whole life, was basketball. So I went to school, the University of Regina. I took business for a little while. I didn't love the program, for me specifically anyway. Mm-hmm. So I traveled, realized there's a lot more to the world. than living in Regina, and not really, I hadn't really experienced the world at that point, right, in my life. So I was like, you know what, let me back up a second. Growing up, I found I was constantly, like, even guidance counselor school, it's like, oh, you can be a teacher, you can be a nurse, you can be a dentist, you can be, like, no one talked to me or our school or us growing up, except for my parents, they did, because my mom likes design, but about other types of jobs in the world. Like, I had no idea until I came to Toronto, like, or even traveled, that there are so many other opportunities out there of things. Like, we don't have to be a teacher, a dentist. Like, if you want to be, that's wonderful, but it wasn't really something that was ingrained in my head that I could see myself doing. So anyway, I did my own research. I got a little bit of help from my guidance counselor when she sort of knew what I liked, like looking into schools. And the only degree program for fashion, which I thought I wanted to do, was in Toronto at Ryerson. So after I did my traveling, I applied for that program and got in, which was lovely and surprising. But being it was a great program. It was actually a really great program, but you touched on so many aspects, because I actually did the communications part of it. Mm-hmm. So we weren't making clothing and all that. We got to do everything from illustration to marketing, and graphic design and typography and all that. So we touched on a lot of different creative outlets through my program. And then with that, we had to do a lot of interning. So then we could kind of learn from being in the industry. So I did a lot of styling. And then I kind of just took to the graphic design portion of it. I wasn't super into the fashion. I like it, but I realized I didn't really want to do it as a career. So, and as I was at Ryerson, on the side, I did personal training at their gym. I trained people, but quickly realized that I didn't want that to be a job. That was something I more enjoyed as an outlet and a hobby, is fitness and all that, because I missed basketball. So right. I did play basketball for a short time at Ryerson too. But
are you playing now at all?
Or no, because I get mad because, like, the few times I've tried, it wasn't competitive. Like, people would show up in, like, jeans. I'm like, what? Like, I want to win. Like, I wanted, like, be able to play. Yeah. But that's on me too. There's other organizations that are probably wonderful that I didn't pursue.
Right.
So anyway, when I graduated, I actually got a job at HomeSense head office doing, helping the buyers. I guess I was a merchandise assistant. So it was a lot of paper pushing, and I didn't get to be very creative. And even my buyers are like, they would try and, like, pull me in their office and help me pick out colors because they knew that I liked that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
And did you get discounts? Let's get real here.
They had lots of sample sales, so I would just load up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
HomeSense is such a hit and miss because you go in and there's either something you can find immediately, but you can't look on the website, right?
Oh,
so
no.
Sometimes you can go in and it's just like a gold mine because everything's there.
And when you need something, though, that you see all the time, but then when you need it, it's not. Yeah. I like HomeSense, those places for events too. Like, it's amazing because you can get to the smaller details, like bar vases and things that you don't see all the time, which I love. But no, so I don't even remember how long I worked there. Only, like, not even a year, like a couple months. And then I got a job at Oxygen magazine, which was like my dream because it intertwined fitness and design. So I did editorial, like, design, the graphics, and then dabbled in helping them with styling and stuff sometimes. And then quickly realized, I think I worked there for a year and a half, met the best girls, and if they're watching, they're the coolest. I love them. And still, like, randomly we get opportunities to work together because they'll ask me to prop style for, like, Clean Eating magazine and stuff like that. So it's so great, like, the type of people you meet through these experiences, mm-hmm. right? And it just really taught me that I didn't want a boss.
Okay.
I'm like, why can they tell me when I can go home to Saskatchewan to see my family? Like, I want to be able to do that when I want to do that. Mm-hmm. So quickly realized too, now that you own your own business, there's no time for anything. But with that said, I love what I do now. But that was a long journey, like getting to where I am, knowing what I actually wanted to do. Because even when I quit at Oxygen, I went back to bartend mm-hmm. to pay the bills on the mm-hmm. weekends, and built my business up from there. But like you said, we started with graphics. So we were doing stationery, menus, logos, all that kind of stuff. And then I started printing all that on food, and then doing suites table design. And
wow.
Started working with Babette and Belle, like not at Babette and Belle, but we started kind of just collaborating on doing some sweets tables and stuff like that, which was wonderful. I'm saying even sometimes if like there's certain clients that are getting a bit frustrating, my mom's like, they're hiring you because they can't see the vision. So you have to be patient with them. Like that's why they're hiring you, because this isn't their forte, you know? So don't go right away and like lose patience. She's like, you got to explain it to them. So I always have to with this kind of stuff is understand that not everyone thinks the same way as we do, you know? Even things that you think are like common sense, you're like, I don't get it. Why can't you see what I'm saying? It's like, because it's not what they do.
I know. We definitely have to be educators when it comes to, because they just don't know.
And walk people through the process slowly,
So speaking of process, run me and everybody through the difference between the planning and the design and how you've merged the two, because you are doing both.
Yeah, we do both. Yeah, so I think naturally we just started planning because we like the design, and it just kind of went hand in hand in some cases. But we also work with planners that are more focused on the management, the logistics, and then hire us out for the vision, which is wonderful too. Like I actually love doing that, because
so
it gives
planner
us,
can call you and say,
they'll call me and be like, we want
event,
a designer.
or you could plan and
design.
So you could do either or.
Yeah, I have lots of regular clients that we just do like graphics, planning, design for. But with that said, working with other planners and just doing the design component allows us to focus a lot more on the design, because we're not dealing with, like, you're still dealing with some logistics obviously, because you got to put budgets together for your design and all that. But when it's all said and done, the smaller things like transportation and hair and makeup, and like, you're not dealing with that. You're just dealing with how that room looks, how it also not just looks, by the way. People think design is just the way it looks. It's got to be functional. Right. The function of the space is everything. The experience has to be all incorporated into the design. So yeah, we do both. But we also sometimes just do graphics for planners or corporate. We sometimes just do design. So that's the difference.
I want to circle back to the functionality of the design, because I think that's interesting. I think people might have questions, but what's kind of an example of, like, you mean even like the flow of traffic in a room, or what's kind of some examples of like functionality and like something that had to be last minute changed, where you were like, oh, this doesn't work, based on seeing a venue for the first time or something? Right.
I would think like the first thing that comes to mind is a corporate event we do. There's a lot of, we have 2 hours to run through like 3,000 people to eat, like to come. We're celebrating something at this corporation, and we're handing out food and maybe even like a tenant appreciation or whatever the case may be. There's such cool food I wanted to hand out, but it's not going to happen in 2 hours with 3,000 people. So you have to go back to the drawing board and be like, hey, what's kind of cool that we can, or even how we're designing it, how these people are lining up. Like if there's 3,000 people lining up at one time, we can't have one setup. Like, how do we do this so that it functions, it gets people through quicker, and that we're handing out food really fast? You know what I mean? So that's one example. But if we're setting up a space for a wedding or a communion or whatnot, obviously for servers to be walking through tables, you can't be squishing them together too much. I mean, I think that sort of goes without saying, but also bottlenecking at the bar. Like, you can't just throw the bar in the corner, because everyone hangs out at the bar all the time. Just things like that. And then even the experiences, you can't develop an experience for, say, kids at a bar mitzvah where one person takes 30 minutes to get through the experience when there's 100 kids. Right. So it might be cool and it might look awesome, but you can't have 10 kids leave the event with something and the others just didn't get to it. You know what I mean? So there's lots of factors to be played into it. And then there's even smaller things. And you sort of, like, as any planner or designer knows, you also learn from every event you do. You're like, okay, I know that looked cool, but maybe that wasn't the best decision I could have made, Yeah. Like, the pictures look great in this, but if you talk to people, they might be like, yeah, I was cool, but it just logistically didn't work that well. You know what I mean? But you always learn that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I think one of the placement things that may happen, and I'm not a planner, so I don't know this information.
But you're at events a lot.
But I'm at enough to see
You're
enough.
the outsider looking in.
Definitely, yeah. But bar placement, I think, would be a tricky one in general, depending on your venue. Head table placement. And dance floor.
Dance floor, I like to... I like to incorporate dance floors in the experience of the event. Not that we like just vinyl off a square and we're like, that's where you dance. Like dance anywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And also you don't want
Be
the dance.
free.
Right.
Do you?
But you also don't want the dance floor to be huge and it doesn't feel like a party. You know what I mean? So there's always those types of things to look at as well. Bars I like to have as focal points. So I make them big if we can fit them.
Do you have any like good examples of like something that had to be thought of like on your feet so fast?
Oh my God. I feel like that's all we do is problem solve.
Yes.
It really is all you do. It doesn't matter how many times I render something out. I have the exact color on the rendering. I order it. It's just, there's so many hands in the cookie jar with vendors that something gets screwed up. And you're just like, how? I sent you timing. I sent you the color. I even drew it for you. Why is it on the other side of the room? You know what I mean? But it happens always. And it's even the vendors, it doesn't mean they're bad. It's just there's so many moving parts, right?
For sure.
Also designing things and then you didn't realize, which this is like on me, but there could be like a bulkhead in like a corner that you didn't realize was there and you were supposed to hang something or you're supposed to do something with that corner and it totally screws up everything. So you have to think on your feet. But I'm trying to think of like moments where I had to think on my feet. Like they're just at every event. Every single one.
Give us a good one.
Oh my God. I'm like, now I'm starting to clam up. Frig, I don't know.
Okay, we'll come back.
Yeah, we'll come back. I'll try and
think about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't clam up.
I'm trying to think.
So you've done some weddings, obviously, and you're working a bit in corporate now. So tell us about some of the brands. Like you're working with Google, and I know Porsche's one of your.
We did
brands.
Porsche. We just did from Snack. We did printed cookies for them, which was great. But we've done with Coach. We did some launch stuff, which was fun. We work a lot with corporations that aren't generally even in your face, like you wouldn't really know them, but if we told you, their logos might start popping up around the city. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I just like that it's always something new, and I like working with the brands because I also learn from them. Like, how did they grow? How did they get to that point? Because a lot of times with these launches, you're not just doing the launch for them. Like, you want to learn about how this line happened, how the collection came to be, because those are design aspects you want to include. For example, like the Coach one was a while ago, but I specifically remember the bags that they came out with for the collection. I watched the runway show for it. I watched the sketches that, like, they showed me some of the sketches that they did for it. And then I pulled aspects from the runway show had like pampas grass and like prairie type, which was perfect because I'm from Saskatchewan. But it had like wheat and all this like lining the runway. So we took that and we worked with the florist to like have it look like it was growing out of the ground in the store around the bags that they had. So it's just neat to be able to grab from their concepts and help them bring it to life. But also with your new ideas, you know what I mean? So I love that. I love it.
So did you do the research and then create the boards and then pitch to the brand? This is what we want to do.
This is what we're thinking. Yeah. And then they're like, okay, that's lovely, but how much is that going to cost?
Of course.
And then you go do that.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the boards and you start reworking them.
Pulling things away.
Yeah. You're like, damn. And even sometimes you're like, maybe if I just put some money in, I'll keep that because I like it so much. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, but you do, because you're just like, I know they can't, like, even they'll say, sure, we'll do it if that's not going to cost that much, but you can tell they're still not seeing your impact, like the impact is going to have.
Right.
And then when you get to the event, they're like, oh my God, now I know why you wanted to freaking do this so bad. You know, I'm like, yeah, because it's awesome.
Yeah, like how do you even convey that message before?
I know it's hard sometimes.
An event.
Yeah, it's hard. But again, your clients are always so different. Some are, I don't want to say easy to convince because that sounds bad, but some, like, if I go through it, they'll learn what I'm trying to say. Some don't, and we don't do it, and it makes me kind of sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can only have so much control.
Yeah.
Unless it's your own event.
Unless it's your own, which I did my own wedding.
Which
you
did your own.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy doing your own?
You know, I had 5 events right after my wedding, so I don't want to say it was easy for me, but I also knew I wanted things that a lot of my clients wouldn't go for. So I was like, I'm going to do this for my wedding so they could see what I was talking about kind of thing, or how it doesn't need to be, and again, totally subjective, some brides and grooms love that soft, airy feel, and it's beautiful. It wasn't Kwesi and I. Like, we're not soft and airy. We're not. I wanted to make sure we incorporated a lot of the, not just me. Even though he was pretty hands off about it, I wanted to make sure we brought in his culture. Mm-hmm. So we met in Kwesi grew up in Africa, moved to Toronto. I grew up in Saskatchewan, moved to Toronto. So Toronto was we wanted to make sure we did it in Toronto, and we didn't want a huge wedding. Mm-hmm. It was a lot bigger than we thought. We almost got divorced before we got married because he wanted it very small.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I knew we wanted texture. That was my biggest thing, was texture. So
in what capacity?
Like the brick walls, the empty space, the concrete floors, like nothing too finished. I loved it. Like the metropolitan feel of an empty room, like a loft, mm-hmm. you know, instead of a banquet hall. And we didn't have a ton of people, so we didn't really need a banquet hall. And then even our tables, they were wood with wrought iron legs, and I wanted a nice soft drape to bring in the sheer factor of it, and like the napkins too were like a cloth. So just a lot of play on texture was like what was in my head. Velvet sofas down the aisle, because we had the ceremony and the reception in the same room. Because mm-hmm. I would say 70% of my guests were from out of town, so I didn't want them having to drive to a ceremony space and then to the venue. That's why we did it in one spot. But
where was it?
It was at the Symes.
The Symes.
Yeah. And then we use like plexi bars, like black bars for our food stations. I think my Saskatchewan family and friends didn't, because they're not used to the food stations. They're like, we just get up and eat, like whatever we want. It was awesome. But, and then it was amazing because Kwesi's aunt brought me, like she got a kente made for me in Africa, and she brought it for me the day before the wedding she got in.
So is that something you were?
So I changed into it. Yeah. For the evening.
Is it a dress?
Yeah, it's like it's a patterned, like an African pattern is the kente, but you can get like printed kente patterns, but they're not the actual kente. Like a kente cloth is a lot heavier. It's a lot more time consuming to weave them and make them and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. My dress was heavy, it was hot, and it did not stretch, but it fit great. It was wonderful. Like and even seeing his family come with their outfits was just like so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were there traditions that you guys did?
I kept trying to pull them out of him, and he's just like, but I had like hidden things. Like I had like on my engagement ring, there's some symbols, like Ghanaian symbols that are his tribe. And I had the symbol for understanding underneath us when we got married. And then there's a symbol of strength on our cake. That Christina from Truffle did. So I had like a lot of stuff incorporated that maybe others wouldn't know, and I kind of liked it that way.
Nice.
You know, like secrets.
Your own little secret symbolisms.
Yeah. Nice. But otherwise, I don't know that it was that traditional in terms of things that they might have done if we went to Ghana.
Okay, so what's a super elaborate something that you've designed that you're just in love with?
There's a few. A lot of them are kids' parties. We just recently did one, which might be fresh to people watching because it was pretty recent. We did a communion, and we had like an 8-foot gumball machine at it. Yeah, which I still have in my warehouse.
So does it spin
it works
all the way down?
No, it's just a huge, like a massive gumball machine. Like you put the quarter in and you spin it and it just falls out. But it's like
it falls 8 feet?
No, like the ball is probably 4 feet, but the machine itself is like it's huge. Yeah, so we have to have an attendant at it to help the kids, but they're just like there's a whole bunch of capsules in it. They're clear capsules, and you can fill them with whatever you'd like. So we had that at an event. So there's an example of something that happened, like a problem-solving thing. So this gumball machine is under a clear tent, and it was hot outside. Yeah. Okay. And it's plastic capsules inside with candy. Uh-oh. Not all candy. Some were toys.
I'm feeling nervous.
No. So I didn't originally have someone standing at the machine the whole event. But I had to. Like we had to, because the capsules started expanding. Yeah. And got hot. And they were busting as they were coming out of not every one of them, but every like third one. And then sometimes the candy was melted. So I had to have an attendant there to like monitor that so that some kid wasn't sad that they got like
Oh.
melted.
So if it was melted,
gummy
you'd
bears.
have to do another one?
So they did another one. So it was fine. It worked out. But it was just like, that's one of those things that like you can't plan for. Like I didn't think that was going to happen. I wasn't thinking these capsules were going to, because they got bigger. So when they were trying to get down the hole to get out of the machine, they would crush. They would get crushed because they were too big to fit through. Anyway, I mean, minor things, but that's just one example of little things that, so then I had to assign someone to just the gumball machine for the whole rest of the event.
Okay.
And then now I have people renting the gumball machine, and now I know, like, make sure it's indoors, make sure, you know, and I always have an attendant with it when it's being rented, so that they know how to problem solve if anything happened, and I'm not being called every 2 seconds.
So do you own like props?
Yeah, we have a whole, I'm actually moving out of my studio into a warehouse, and we have now together like podiums that we rent, light fixtures, tons of pillows, and the gumball machine, furniture. Like we're starting to kind of accumulate all this furniture because I end up, sometimes if the party's longer than a day, I'm buying it because it's cheaper to buy than to rent at times if like something's happening for 2 weeks straight. You know what I mean? So yeah, we've accumulated some stuff.
Wow. What's the most popular rental?
On the to-do list. The podiums, for sure. Just the like basic white podiums, for sure. Because they're just versatile, right? And I can design so much on them too, even for events I'm doing. I like them.
Oh, wow.
Instead of like getting a table with a linen for desserts, it's kind of nice to put them on like different layers of, it just adds some depth onto podiums. Like there's so many things you can use those for.
Oh,
so
cool.
I got a lot of inquiries about the gumball machine. So I think that's going to be the next, I just have to get it going again. Yeah. Cause you can vinyl it to like put logos on it. So there's a lot of stuff coming up for the gumball machine. I think you could fill the capsules with anything. Lip gloss, shoelaces, candy, like anything. I was like Jello shooters for adults, but then I'm like, maybe not, because that'll just cause drippage and then that thing will get stuck probably. But
It's okay if it's liquid though, so even if it melted, it would still be liquid.
I know, but then it'll like cut, you know, like when you have nail polish and it dries on, it'll probably do that to the thing that turns the quarters. Yeah. But good idea.
So many things.
Yeah.
So many
That's
things.
the
to
whole
think
functional versus like coolness.
Amazing idea. Not gonna
so
work.
great. Yeah. Yeah.
Makes
But
sense.
yeah, we're actually moving our studio space into the warehouse and like splitting them up so that we have like a work zone, and then we're going to shoot all the products. Cause right now it's just kind of word of mouth to planners that know we have it.
So if I want to rent something from you, do I go to Megan Wappel Designs?
Yeah. We're going to put like a rental
under the
section
same
on
thing.
this.
Okay.
Yeah. But
cool.
at some point.
It might go different. Yeah. What's Snack?
So Snack is another in-house thing that we do, because I was finding I was constantly sourcing favors for clients, and I'm like, I wasn't running into like original flavors or things that I found that I was always customizing the favors myself and then ordering them from someone else. And I'm like, why don't I just have a line of favors that I can customize for each of my clients and brand for each of my clients? So that's where that came from. But backtracking a bit, myself and Truffle Cake and Pastry, Christina, were besties, and we had a company called Confetti, where we did like party in a box, and it's like still like makes me sad we're not doing it, but it came down to logistics. Like the food was too perishable, so we would have like one big party in a box that we're delivering, and that would take up our whole day, and we're like, we can't, like logistically, money wise, all that kind of stuff, it just didn't work, right? Because we get the order, you can't bake that cake a week ahead of time, like you're making it the day before it needs to be delivered.
So what was the idea behind it? It was a box full of
so I did all the graphics and stationery and marketing for it, and then Christina did all the sweets. So if someone say they could go on our website, and I'm just pulling this out of the air, but say someone was having a baby and they wanted a bunny theme, we had cakes, we had like 12 different themes that you could change the color of, and you could add toppers. So we had cake toppers that were numbers for birthdays. We had cake toppers that were little animals for baby showers, stuff like that. So it catered to sort of any event, and it came with from a small box to an extra large box. So it came with the cake, and then matching it would be the cookies, the cake pops, the plates, the forks, the spoons, the cups. Like it all came as like one party in a box, essentially, because we just found we had clients calling us to come set up a smaller party, but it's not really what we do. You know what I mean? Like I love intimate events, but to a certain extent, you know what I mean? So I couldn't charge a certain amount to, say, a mom and dad that wanted me to come just set up like a little cake or something for it didn't compute for them. And I understand that, you know what I mean? So we're like, how can we cater to this market? Because it's such a huge market. So we did these, and we like blood, sweat, and tears, and I still love them so much. But we even had some bigger companies reach out to sell our cookies in their stores and stuff, but they were so time consuming, because Christina was like little fondant sugar cookie, like they weren't just printed cookies, they were like each one was detailed, right? So when it came down to it, with all the orders she was getting and all the events I was booking, we couldn't fit these boxes in logistically, and people had to order. They would always be like, hey, I need a box next week, and we're like, no, it's a 2 week, you have to book 2 weeks beforehand. So it was just a lot of logistics that we obviously got too excited about the company and didn't factor in. But that taught me that anything with snack, which is our online shop, it needs to be items that aren't so perishable. So we have saltwater taffy, chocolate, our shortbread sugar cookies that are printed, but those they still have a shelf life. It's just not the day before, you know what I mean? And then we have our dip and dunks, which are our Dunkaroos, like our adult Dunkaroo kind of boxes. But again, those are a bit more perishable because I want the cookies to be fresh. But chocolates, the popcorn has a bit longer of a shelf life, and it all gets branded to whoever, whether it's planners reaching out to me to put monograms on them for weddings, or corporate asking me to just slap their logo on them. So that's what that is. And then that way we can prep them but like a week ahead of time. And then we just deliver them. We aren't like, this has to be made at 9 o'clock and then delivered in the morning. You know what I mean?
So there's elements of what you did.
Exactly. But learn from. Yeah. I'd like to add more at some point, but, right now we're kind of focusing on what people are ordering. Like I'm finding like there's a few things on our shop right now I'm probably going to get rid of because they're not getting ordered as fast.
What's the most popular?
The most popular, I would say, is the taffy station. Like people, and we do the stations. So you can order all the taffy, and we bring the custom boxes, and like whoever's at the event can fill them. The taffy.
So there's an actual person there with a cart at the station,
filling boxes, but the boxes are all branded to the event.
Okay, so it's giving the experience. So can you opt for that, or you can opt for just the delivery? Boxes.
Okay. Yeah. So the taffy's huge. The flat chocolate bars that are sprayed certain colors are a big one. And then our individual chocolates are pretty big too. But we have some on there that I was having a hard time packaging them because they shift around in delivery, and I don't like that. Like I want things to be perfect when they're given to the client. So I'm going to take those off probably, but it's just all kind of, I might love something and I feel like it'd be amazing, and people are like, what are you smoking? Like, no, that's not cool, you know? So, and also when it comes to package design and packaging, I'm making packages locally. The packaging is done locally, so it's not cheap either. And I'm not ordering it in quantities of 5,000 because, as people know, the more you order, the cheaper they are. So I'm kind of testing out to see like what are people gravitating toward, because then I can start ordering bigger quantities and I can start lowering the prices on my website too. But yeah, so far I like it. It's just kind of a slow transition, and I can recommend it to clients. I never push it on clients, but I'm like, it's available if you want it. And it caters to any event that we're doing because we can make it any color.
What's your amount that you could do? Like if someone had a 300-person wedding, could you do that?
Yes. The larger the quantity, the better. And we start discounting at certain quantities too. So, and even on the website, you can't order unless you're getting a certain amount. Because we don't do just one chocolate bar. It has to be like at least. That's sense. Another thing we learned from confetti. Like I can't be running around and designing your label and printing one chocolate bar for you. You know what I mean? So there are quantity limits, but I always encourage, especially with the beginning of snack, I'm like, listen, if the website says you have to order 50, you only want 30, just email me. You know what I mean? And let me know, because it's for us. Like we want to also get our name out there and start building that portion of our brand. So
like what prompted snack then for you? What was kind of like the driver why you wanted to do it?
I feel like our company involves a lot of one-stop shop with our graphics, our planning and design, that this was kind of one of those things that was just another add-on, because it's something that can make it easy for the client. We're not having to outsource, and just another offering, obviously not obligated, but just another offering that we could have in-house. But with that said, the thing that made me think of it most is because my husband lives out in BC, that it's also a revenue stream for Megan Wappel Designs that I don't necessarily need to micromanage once it becomes a well-oiled machine. Like, obviously it's going to take a little while, but I've done the legwork. I've designed it. We do want to do new designs for the seasons and new flavors, but it's designed. The packaging is what it is. So if I'm out with my husband and we get orders, I can trust that my girls are gonna be able to assemble them properly and make sure the labels are straight, because I'm crazy. But it's not micromanaged so much that design or an event would be, right? It's just more, let's get it done, order the stuff, get it done. So that was one of the main reasons why I created Snack, because eventually I would like a family. And I might not be able to be working 24/7 like I am right now.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. Okay.
Advice time. So let's give some advice for, you know what? Let's give some advice for anyone who's starting a business, because you have a background in business and you have and you've been in business for so long. Anything for anyone who's just starting out?
I have so much. Main thing I have to say is stay on your own path. I know I keep going back to social media, but because it happens to the best of us. Like, we start scrolling and we start seeing, oh my God, I wish that I got that event, or I wish I did this, I wish I did that. I find the moment I shut that off and just stay on my own path and concentrate on what's going on in my mind is when I've grown the most. And I'm not just saying personally, I mean, even in my business, like, people have noticed me more, and I've done better events when I'm not looking at other people's things. Cause there's enough freaking business out there for all of us if we're good at what we do.
Yep.
You know, so stay in your lane.
Drop the comparison.
It's hard. It's such a natural thing for all of us to do that. But when you start feeling overwhelmed, you need to just like get off and refocus and stay in your path, because I promise you, if you stay there, you will get far. And another more advice I have is, the things that you're not the best at, like me, accounting, I hate doing it. You need to not let go. You always need to, that's your money. But certain things like that, like I remember I was trying to do the photography at all my events. I was doing all my HST filing. And it's just if you want to grow at what you're good at, you need to start leaving those specific things to those professionals. Obviously, you still want to keep an eye on it to make sure everything's good. But that was probably, when I started, the best advice I got is focus more on what you're good at and leave the other things to those professionals. Maybe in the beginning you won't have the funds to do that, because I didn't, but eventually you will. And then those tasks will be off your plate, and eventually you'll be able to concentrate on exactly what you're really good at.
Yeah. And I think it's important to understand. It's great advice. Yeah. And I think it's important to understand each portion of the business. So even if you start doing the accounting, like I just finished year end, which I have an accountant, but I choose to go through all of my expenses and I choose to log everything.
But that's good, because then you're like, man, I didn't realize how much I was spending on this, and that. And then it allows you to focus back on your business too.
Correct. Yeah. So I think it's important, because then at least you're learning a little bit of everything. Yeah. And then when you do hire the professionals, there you go. Yeah. And if they leave you for some reason, at least you know a little bit to get yourself started. Right? Yeah.
But yeah, I know the basics of what you're doing with your finances, but when it comes to actually filing it and doing all that, I found personally, subjective thing, but is that it was always floating around in the back of my head.
So what's some event design advice? What's one piece of advice you would give a bride who's designing her event or is going to hire a designer, what they should be looking for?
Oh, man.
That's
a tough one, because everyone's looking for something different. You know what? Let me tell you, and this it has to do with design, but it doesn't. Is like, even looking back at my own wedding, you get so caught up in the design, and I love design and I want you to have the like coolest wedding ever, you know, but sometimes like once that wedding's all said and done, and that ribbon color that you were stressing about so much, did you really care the day of your wedding? Like, I'm all about the details, but there's so many aspects you don't need to be stressing about. Like, even my wedding, I'm like, man, I really didn't need this, and this. Like, why did I spend the money on it? Like, we need to buy a house. And this isn't about that. It's about us getting married. It's about our families coming together. Like, when else? I stood up to do my speech or talk to everyone that was at my wedding, and I would literally looked around and I got teary because I'm like, when else in my life am I going to have the people here from Africa and Saskatchewan and Toronto all in one room? Because even if I ever have a child or a baby shower, they're not all coming to it. You know what I mean? This is the only time probably in our whole life that these important people are with us, and that's really what matters. And again, I don't want to trump what we do because I think it's important, but I do feel like the advice I'd have for that bride and groom is to, when you start getting really stressed out about your designing, it's all going to come together. And the things that didn't, people aren't going to really notice probably that it didn't. And the most important part of your day is spending time with your new husband, wife, and family. And the design will always come together, especially if you have a designer on your team. They're never going to leave you hanging.
As we wrap, and just before, I usually like to end off by having you ask the audience a question that might be a burning question you have that you're interested in finding out. What do you got?
I want to know how much coffee gets everyone through the day, or anything else. I'm just kidding.
And how many coffees do you drink?
You know what? In the morning, I have 3 espresso shots on ice, and that's it, just in the morning.
Okay.
But I have pre-workout before the gym, so that's got some caffeine in it too, so I have to be careful. But coffee doesn't wake me up. I just like it. Or I'm just addicted to it and have to go off it for a little while so that I can reset.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. It's just, I think just like the smell just gets you going.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a nice morning aroma.
Yeah. And I know lots of people don't drink it, but I don't know how. It's
well,
delicious.
I'm going to go have a coffee right now.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been fun to sit and chat.
Yes.
So we'll have to see what you get up to in the next few months. We'll be keeping an eye on you.
Yeah.
And feel free to come back anytime.
I would like to.
Sit at the black table. We'll chat.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you
Cheers,
so
my
much.
dear.
Cheers.
All right, guys, that is it for episode 2, season 2 of the VIP Collective. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to give us one of these. And you can always hit subscribe so you don't miss next Wednesday's episode. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week on the VIP Collective.